What's going on, everybody? Doug here, one of the hosts, producers, and creators of the Genre of Your Life podcast, here with another review roundup episode for you all this week. May I say a magical and wicked review roundup episode for you all this week. If you can guess what it is, as you might already know, is my review of the highly anticipated Wicked, the adaptation of the hit Broadway musical. May I add, my favorite musical of all time, if you ask me. I am so excited, over the moon, to review this movie for you all. Again, you saw my reaction. I was just praising this movie from the heavens. So I am so hyped to review this movie for you all this week. With that said, there'll be no full episode of the podcast this week. I'm celebrating my birthday, as well as some things going on with family and friends. So look out for a full episode, hopefully for you guys, the day before Thanksgiving. I also have my overdue review of Smile 2, as well as Nora. So look out for that. So my apologies again, getting those to you guys so late. There's been kind of scheduling issues and stuff like that, but I won't bore you guys with that. As always, my friends, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and we also have a full audio show on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Midway Avenue Productions. I will tease something real quick. I think we're going to start doing the video element, I think the first week of December. So I think after Thanksgiving, we're going to start doing the video. I mean, we've been talking about it for so long now, that's finally happening, right? We've been having it up for so long, so look out for that. Hopefully have that to you guys maybe the first week of December. So bear with us. We're going to be still a little new to the video element of podcasting. We do videos, of course, for reactions and quick reactions for movies and stuff like that, and screening vlogs. But it'll be our first time actually doing actual video element of a podcast. So bear with us. We're still kind of learning more about it as we go along. As we all know, our audio was terrible the first few weeks when we started doing the podcast 2 years ago. I'll never forget, our first comment on YouTube was like, "Man, your audio sucks." And that person was not wrong. It was pretty bad. But hopefully now, 2 years later, our audio's gotten better for your listening needs and also your just podcast needs, of course. So look out for, hopefully, as we debut our video element of the podcast. We are very hyped for this. And we have a lot of cool things to end the year on. We get a few more movies to review, a few more shows to catch up on. And then, of course, we're going to be hitting 2025 hard with we're going to be going with more festivals and cons and more screenings, of course. So we have a great 2025 in store for the show and for our lovely audience like yourself. So look out for that. But as always, my friends, thank you so much for the ongoing support. Like I said, it's been 2 years come last week that we've done the podcast, and we're still loving this every day, every week. And thanks to you all, the support really means the world to us. So thank you all for listening, hearing us ramble about all things movies, TV, and all things entertainment, and of course for the support, because it really means the world to all of us. With that said, my friends, let's get into the magic. And the magic is, of course, it is Wicked. And like I said, Wicked is definitely, hands down, I'm a little biased, is my favorite all-time musical. I remember my parents took me and my brother when we were kids in Chicago to see it on Broadway, and I was just floored by the music and just the spectacle of it all. Wow, live production can be so grand and so spectacular and with such scale. And I think that's the beauty of this show, is that you think of spectacle and scope, you think of big movies, you think of The Wizard of Oz, of course. And I think what Wicked did for me as a kid was that, wow, the stage can be just as spectacular, if not even more grand on a scale and a scope as film and TV. And I remember the music sticking with me a lot. I remember as a kid watching The Wizard of Oz a lot as a kid. Just kind of a big part of my childhood. Seeing kind of just how magical that movie is too. And I remember just hearing all good things about it as a kid, before we're seeing it, oh my gosh, it's if you like Wizard of Oz, you're gonna like Wicked. And I was like, okay, cool, for sure. And I remember just sitting there with my parents, just blown away. I think my parents also got great tickets when we were kids on the floor, and I was very spoiled with those tickets, especially. But I remember just being so just in awe and just so mesmerized by this show. I remember my mom bought the CD after we saw it, and had the recording of Dina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth with obviously the original cast. But still though, I remember seeing it as a kid, just the version show I saw was just still so magical, so transporting. You're just I'm in a whole different. I'm in Oz, and that's the beauty, I think, of theater and live production. But if you don't know Wicked. And if you don't know Wicked, fair enough. Wicked follows the story of Elphaba, a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Glinda, a popular girl, becomes friends at the Shiz University in the land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. It is to put it in the way, it is a prequel. It is a prequel to Wizard of Oz. However, this might be a spoiler, but it's a prequel to Wizard of Oz. Act 1 is, and Act 2 intertwines with Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy's already in Oz, and you see a whole different side of the story that you didn't see during the Wizard of Oz. So it's a very fascinating story because how they do a prequel and a somewhat like continuation or like side story of the Wizard of Oz. It's a very, again, I love, like, I think one of the Bourne films did that too, where it was like it was a sequel, but then took place, after this movie, blah blah blah. And I think it's really cool when films or shows or live production can like intertwine like storylines into something that we already know, like the Wizard of Oz. So I think it's really cool to see how they kind of like bring it all together. Like I said, Kristen Chenoweth and Nina Menzel, or whatever Travolta said, Adele Dazeem, whatever he said. He messed up her name really badly on national TV at a whole award show. I forgot what it was, but they obviously did like the originating of the original roles of Glinda and Elphaba. But again, I remember as a kid just playing the music over and over again with my parents and my brother, and we were just like, man, this music's so like, it's just so like, it's beautiful, it's poppy, but it's powerful at the same time. Again, if you love Wizard of Oz, it's a very like, it's a very nice love companion to that, I would say. And when this was announced, I think it was announced like a while ago, and I was like, oh wow, like I only saw it once on stage. I know my friends and family have seen it more than once, more than me, which I'm jealous. And I was supposed to go see it in London during my semester abroad, but I think I had a scheduling conflict. So I saw Aladdin instead. And I was like, Aladdin was cool too, but I was kind of bummed. I was kind of like, I can see Wicked again on stage, but I didn't get to see it. But I think it's been at ASU Gamage out here in Phoenix a couple times, but I've missed it each time. With that said, though, I remember just sticking with me a lot for the most part, and the music to me was just like so iconic in what it is. But the movie was announced, I think it was like even before COVID, like, yeah, it was coming out this year, whatever. But then there was like no like, I think it was kind of just like, not cursed, but I think it was just like, there was so many like, it was in kind of development hell where it was like, hey, this director's coming in, oh, this person's going to be a whatever. And it was just like, who's attached to it? And I think the ball got rolling more during COVID when Universal announced that John M. Chu was going to be doing this movie. And John M. Chu, if you don't know him, John M. Chu has a very fascinating filmography because he is a film, TV, entertainment geek just like us. And I remember seeing his movies when I was a kid with the Step Up movies. I think his first big movie, if I'm mistaken, I think his first really theatrical movie, was Step Up to the Streets. And as a kid, I loved those movies because of like, I like the choreography and I like the hip hop and rap that was part of the soundtrack of it all. And I believe he did Step Up 2, Step Up 3D. Again, as a kid, I'll be honest, they aren't the best movies, and I'll be very frank, not the best movies. However, just you can't deny like the choreography and also just like the cool, like the amazing soundtrack they have of different artists, different genres, but mostly hip hop and rap, which I'm a big hip hop and rap head. So I gave props that was kind of his beginning, and then I believe he did like a couple Justin Bieber documentaries. I think my brother and I even paid for one in 3D back in the day. I think he did never say never, which I think my brother and I paid to go see in theaters in 3D. Why is that in 3D? I have no idea, but hey, we got pretty cool purple 3D glasses, so props to you. And then he ventured off into like action. I remember then he did G.I. Joe 2, G.I. Joe Retaliation, which to be honest with you is not a good movie, but hey, props to him for trying something new, right? Did another Bieber documentary for the big screen that I did not see, and not in 3D. So I guess they didn't have the budget for it this time. But why he had 2 documentaries in theaters, I don't know. And then he did some movies like Gem the Holograms, which I heard was like terrible. I remember it came out when I was in high school. I heard it was terrible. And I heard like if you were a fan, like the original OG Gem Holograms, like it was like a big disappointment. And then Now You See Me Too, which I did not care for as much, is because I was never a fan of the first one. I know hot take, everyone loves the first one, and I was like, yeah, this to me was kind of just like whatever. It was cool like acting, it was cool like premise, but to me it kind of felt really flat. Didn't really do it for me. And I remember seeing Now You See Me Too before I left Chicago and moved to Arizona. And I was like, maybe this one win me over. Nope, opposite effect. I said, yeah, this wasn't for me. So now I'm doing the third one. We'll see. We'll probably review it for the pod. I can't say I'm too excited about that, but we'll see. And I'm bummed. I'm so mad at myself. I was supposed to go see this movie in college at a screening, like at a class or like at a work, and that is and that is Crazy Rich Asians. I heard this movie is like phenomenal. Like, everyone loves it. Like it's an amazing cast. And again, I was supposed to see a screening of it in college. I just got bombarded with work and school, and I was like, crap. And to this day, I have not seen it. It's on my list. It's been on my list for like so long, but I'm definitely gonna watch this after watching Wicked now 2 times. But I think the big turn for John Chu, other than for me at least, was In the Heights, because before then I saw all of his movies. That, again, minus the Justin Bieber documentary number 2. In the Heights to me was a movie where I was like, first off, I'm a big Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. I think he's just a genius, a musical and creative genius. He's also a really good dude. He loves everything, all things like live production, music, entertainment, and movies. And again, In the Heights had a delay because of COVID, and I remember it was kind of got hit by day and day release by HBO Max. And granted, I should have seen that in theaters, and I should have. I don't know why I didn't. But I watched it at home, and I just like fell in love with In the Heights. I said, "Wow!" Just because, again, obviously the magic of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I can't pronounce that name today. Jeez. Lin-Manuel Miranda. There we go. I just love his kind of just like his creative spirit, his energy, his love for New York, love for his culture, love for just, being in America, love for kind of just like, being a working person in America, that I think a lot of people can relate to. And that's like, hey, if you're a hard worker in this country, like you just work, you follow your dreams, follow your passion, never lose sight of who you are. And I just loved how that was the heart, like that was definitely his, like, just like that was his love, that was his heart. And what I thought John M. Chu did very well was that he just pays homage to Lin-Manuel Miranda's like career, as well as kind of just being a love letter to New York, and just kind of like, working hard to get what you want. And the cast was just phenomenal. I mean, again, it was Anthony Ramos, who's just, obviously from Hamilton, remarkable actor and singer. Corey Hawkins, who I love since Straight Outta Compton. Melissa Barrera, who was, phenomenal in Scream, and Abigail, and of course, and In the Heights. And it's just a very, very, very well made, joyful, colorful, just really beautiful story and musical. And I really do think that movie got not hurt, but like definitely affected by like COVID and the delays, and then obviously the streaming day and day release. And I really do think that maybe like the movie would have had a better life if it wasn't affected by that. I know it was still like very received very well from like critics and audiences, whatever. But I think it didn't do well at the time, because also it was like we were just getting out of COVID too. It was right around like things were getting better, people getting vaccinated, like the theaters were opening up again, and the big ones obviously were like Fast and Furious and like Quiet Place. But I do think that day and day release, which if you heard me on the show before, I was very against this since day one. I said, listen, I love the movies and I love the shows, but granted, I'm a bit hypocrite because I didn't see it in theaters and I saw it at home. I think because timing or scheduling wise, and I just think that the movie got affected by that. With that said, though, I felt what John M. Chu did in The Heights was just magical, because he's taking comedy, he's taking romance, taking drama, he's taking tragedy, he's taking musical, like all in one. And I always love when directors and filmmakers can like just blend genres just so effortless, masterfully and effortlessly. And John M. Chu to me did an amazing job. And I was like, wow, my man, you went from doing Justin Bieber documentaries to this, which I think was just remarkable. And I do think that a lot of actors kind of like find their calling. And I do think with him doing Crazy Rich Asians to In the Heights, I think he's better doing like the, emotional, very character-based stuff. I don't think he was, again, no this to his work in, Step Up or even Now You See Me or G.I. Joe, but I think he's a director that works better with the musical element or very heavy drama-based. And I do think that he found his niche with Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, and now Wicked. So I was very on board with him. Like, oh, cool, John M. Chu, who I grew up watching his movies. I know he's a big fan of Wicked. I know he's a big fan of just music and just like just filmmaking. I was on board. The big question after that was, who's going to be cast as Elphaba and Glinda? And you always have like, who's going to be whatever. And I remember, I think they announced Cynthia Erivo first. And obviously, if you hear me on the show, or hear my mom anytime in the universe. I I know I fell in love with her with. I know I fell in love with Cynthia Erivo with Bad Times at the El Royale, which is a criminally, and I mean criminally underrated movie from 2018 that Fox I think Disney bought Fox at the time, just did not believe in this movie whatsoever and did like no marketing for it at all. And it's an awesome, super underrated movie that no one saw but me, Moses, Nick, and our friend Malone. In theaters, that is. And we saw it at a screening through college, so dare I say less. But it's a very just super underrated thriller that like I think that was 6 years ago. That would not be made today, unfortunately, or for the big screen. It would be made for Hulu or made for Prime. It would go away in a week. And that movie to me, that was one of the last few Fox movies before Disney had full control of Fox. That just felt like, wow, like this is why we go to the movies for like original films like this. And that movie tanked, but had a great cast: John Hamm, Cynthia Erivo, Jeff Bridges, Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, Lewis Pullman. It's an amazing cast, and it's a really amazing film. But she, to me, like I think everyone said that she stole the show because she was unknown at the time, and she's going up these heavy hitters with these established actors, and she's singing live, and her voice is just beautiful and just so magnificent. And the way she sings, the way she kind of carried her character, and again, what she does very well as a British actress. She has her accent just so well, and you're just like, wow, like who is this girl? Who is this actress? And then sure enough, she got bigger, more. She did more movies, like she did Widows, then she did Harriet, and now she did that Stephen King show on HBO was really good. But she just kind of like captured all of us with El Royale. If you saw El Royale, and again, her singing in that was just like, wow, her voice is just beautiful, and she's singing live on set. You're just like, oh my god, this is incredible. So we cast her. I was like, this makes total sense because she's one of the most beautiful voices in the world. She's a phenomenal actress. And you're just like, this makes sense. But the question is now, who's going to play opposite her as Glinda? And when I heard Ariana Grande, I said, okay. Ariana Grande dated one of my favorite rappers of all time, Mac Miller, may he rest in peace. And I know that like he and her had this kind of like really beautiful like love. And I think that was part of his album, Divine Feminine. And I was like, oh, interesting. I remember like her, she was like a Nickelodeon or like Disney kid. And I was like, okay. I don't think I've seen her in too much at acting, I want to say, prior to this. She had a cameo in Don't Look Up with Kid Cudi, one of my favorite artists of all time. And I was like, okay, Ariana Grande, interesting. And I'm trying to think of things I saw her in that like, also beautiful voice. Don't get me wrong, beautiful voice. But I'm like acting wise, I'm like, I don't really know if I know like, if I started anything in acting. Like I saw her in obviously music videos, stuff like that. And again, she's definitely more of like more of a pop star, more like artist celebrity more than an actress. But I gotta say I was a little skeptical at first because I was like, Ariana Grande, no, beautiful voice. And so I had doubts. Obviously, the movie got delayed because of COVID or got delayed because of the strikes. So it was kind of like, oh, all right, so we'll see where this goes. And I was a bit skeptical because I was like, this is one of my favorite musicals of all time. It's not my favorite musical of all time. And I'm a little worried because I'm like, just do it justice, whatever. And then you cast really amazing actors like Michelle Yeoh, Oscar-winning Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, and then so you get pretty stacked. You have pretty stacked cast for the most part. And so I was a little skeptical, but then I think the trailer, I think it was announced as one movie, and they put part two. And in my head, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because the musical is so rich and it's so like, it's so layered and it's so deep and it's like a lot of different themes going on. There's a lot of different like set pieces and different stories going on. And how do you, again, the first act one obviously is prequel. Act two is intertwined with Wizard of Oz and Dorothy's story. So you're like, okay, how does this work? So it made sense with that, obviously. And I remember the trailer came out a few months ago, and I said, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm always worried too because when you love something so much and it's getting adapted, you're kind of like, please, like, do it justice. Please do it justice. Please, pour your love into this, please. Kind of like very protective over it, I would say. But I had hope, and then again, part one, part two. But my thing during the marketing of this movie before the movie came out, I was like, wait, what about why isn't this movie not being marketed as part one? Because Dune did the same thing. Dune was like, yeah, Dune part one. And then It, same thing. It was just part as It. And I think what It and Dune did differently, It and Dune both waited to see how the movie did first in the box office and theaters, and then they greenlit part one and part two. That is, because I think the era of greenlighting a part one and part two of movies is gone. They're like, hey, we're doing part one, part two, boom. Because I think back to like look at Harry Potter, look at Twilight, look at Hunger Games, even Divergent, unfortunately. Those movies were all like part one, part two, because they already like announced whatever. They were, in the can, done, filmed, done. We're going to wait for another year, a few months, whatever, blah, 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 and release it. But I think Harry Potter did part one in November 2010 and part two in July, so not a full year, but I digress. Well, because Twilight coming out 2011, 2012, whatever. But then Hunger Games, same thing. Hunger Games part one, part two, Mockingjay was split into two movies. It was kind of like the trend at the time. But I think the big thing was when Divergent, the last third Divergent came out, and that movie just ate shit and kind of just like and tanked. That stopped them from doing part two because they were like, well, no, we're not doing this. I don't even film part two. They were like, no, it'll be a TV movie on Bravo. And they were like, we're not doing that. Goodbye. Never happened. And I don't think Maze Runner did that, but I do. I'm trying to think back to now, like of movies of the past decade, that part one and part two era is like gone. It's like, nah, we're done doing that. It's stopping. Goodbye. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And that's why I think movies like It and Dune, they waited for the returns in the box office and how well it was received in theaters, and then they greenlit part one and part two. But this movie is different because it goes back to that kind of model of like, no, we believe in this movie. It's already been filmed. We're just waiting for part one, part two. But I want to know why was this movie not marketed as part one? And I do think if you're not familiar with the musical or not knowing part one, how you're going to feel when the movie ends, you're like, wait, this is a part one? Because I think again, as much as I love Universal, as much as I love this company and the production and everything, whatever, I think maybe it would have benefited just a little bit if it wasn't part one. Because I do think that when people saw Dune, they were like, wait, this is only part one? Was only part one. Like they just didn't. I mean, the marketing, for it, was more apparent, more obvious. But I think with Dune, they were like, wait, it's only part one. I get it. Nowadays, with box office returns and theaters, stuff like that, with the era of streaming, whatever, it's more of a riskier gamble, and I get that too. But I do think that the movie could have benefited from part one, also too, because I've seen it twice now. I saw it once at the press screening on Sunday. So I went with my mom at a Regal screening last night. After we saw the movie on IMDb, before the movie it was Wicked. After we saw it, Wicked Part 1. So IMDb is even saying now Part 1. And the movie, though, does say Part 1 in the opening credits. I get that. I do think the marketing maybe should have put Part 1 just not to confuse people. Like, oh, okay, to prepare themselves like, hey, Part 1, Part 2. With that said, all that rambling down, I absolutely love this movie. I love this movie so much. They took such good care of the musical story, the characters. It's again, as someone who loves Wicked so much, they took the best care with these characters in this story. I think John M. Chu, how he handled the spectacle and scope of this movie is remarkable. It's masterful. It's a masterclass in filmmaking. It's a masterclass in choreography, music, and also too, I stand correct. I had my doubts about Ariana Grande at first. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are just perfect in this together. They bring so much magic to Elphaba and Glinda, and this movie itself is magic itself. It's pure movie magic. You're sitting there, you're just like, I'm just immersed. I'm in Oz. It's so immersive. The scope and spectacle of this is just remarkable. They did everything, I think, right. And I love being so like high off the movie where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I've been singing the song since then. I'll probably buy the vinyl this weekend when it's on sale at Target or Amazon. Actually, no, incorrectly. I'll buy my local record store because you want to support local, support indie record shops. The match of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo was perfect because they have two of the most beautiful voices in the world. But they truly embody these characters. They bring so much love and they bring so much so much passion and respect to these characters that you're like, yeah, this definitely works. And again, pairing them together was worked out so well, because when they're in tune together, when they're singing together, when they're singing together, is just like, you get goosebumps. I had goosebumps seeing it last night and seeing it on Sunday at the screening. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like, I have goosebumps. This is why I love the musical so much. And they brought so much love and so much attention to these stories, to these songs, and the detail they went into it. And what I think this movie did really well is that, like, for a big budget movie like this, a big blockbuster like this, the use of practical and CGI. John M. Chu said in an interview, he goes, if we could build it, we did it. And I'm like, I love hearing that. Because again, I think now a movie like this, maybe nowadays we like more on a volume, more like on green screen or kind of like a blue screen. Obviously, there's obviously blue screen and green screen involved. Don't get me wrong, it's a movie about witches and magic. No shit, right? But I just really, I am always amazed when big budget blockbusters like this, studio films, utilize practical effects, practical sets, and locations to their advantage, because it feels like magic came to life. Like it feels real. That's why I think Harry Potter was so successful, because it was like, again, Hogwarts was a real set at times, and it felt really real. And I do think why I think some of like the Marvel films, some of the other big budget movies recently have been feeling like, okay, this is a green screen, this is a blue screen, this is a volume. Like, it doesn't feel like real. It doesn't feel like, stuff like back in the day from like Ben-Hur and the big blockbusters of back then, like a Star Wars or whatever. Because now it's been like more just like old digital era and the blue screen era. And I get it, cost saving, efficiency, you have it for a reason. I get it. I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. But I just have to be really, I always in awe and always got to give props to filmmaking and movies when they can really utilize real life sets. And I think how they use the real life sets and built stuff, like apparently they planted like 10 million tulips, which is like crazy. But guess what? Universal was like, hey, go for it. And again, I just love seeing when studios can really invest in their actual sets and actual locations to make it feel more poppy and more magical, more whimsical. Because John M. Chu, to me, like I said, I think this is probably his best movie as a filmmaker, other than The Heights. Again, I got to watch Crazy Rich Asians. I promise I will watch it after reviewing this movie. I think this is his best movie. I think every movie he's done, including the Bieber documentaries, have led up to this movie for sure. Just because you can tell he's a fan, you can tell he has a love for this story and this material. Like, he loves, like, again, he got 2 amazing performances out of Ariana and Cynthia. And I'll say it here, I think he deserves a Oscar nom, because he handled and managed the scope and scale of this beloved, just, powerful, rich music and story so well and so seamlessly. You're like, dude, you killed it. Like, this is a masterclass. And again, I love seeing interviews with him. Like, he's a really good dude. So I'm like, you know what? I like that even more, that, hey, you're actually a really good dude. You have a love for this story. And I do think he was the perfect guy to make this movie. I hands down believe that wholeheartedly. And the supporting cast, like I said, supporting cast is great. Michelle Yeoh, Peter Dinklage as Dr. He's the GOAT. What is his name? I should know this by now. Doctor, not. What is it? It's Doctor. I have IMDb. Why do I? Dillamond. Dillamond. Duh, I should know that by now. Michelle Yeoh, who again was phenomenal. Oscar-winning Michelle Yeoh, that is. My apologies. Who I again grew up watching her in movies. Again, she won the Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, very amazing actress who worked with John M. Chu in Crazy Rich Asians. Jonathan Bailey, who I actually worked on a show. Did I work on a show? Was he in the show? Yes, Fellow Travelers. So I know he was really big on. He's big. He's huge from Bridgerton. Oh, you know what? I think he was in a show I watched with my dad. I think he was in. Was he in? Let me see. I think he was in. He was in Jack Ryan. Interesting. Yeah, for sure. He was in season 1 Jack Ryan, which I loved. Good for him. I knew him from like certain things here and there, but not from Bridgerton. He to me is so damn charming. Oh my gosh, he's so damn charming, and the way he moves, the way he kind of just like moves, the way he kind of just like like sings, and he has a big smile on his face the entire time. You're just like, oh man, you're having so much fun. And he reminded me a lot of like a mix of Chris Pine and Matt Bomer. And I do think maybe 10 years ago, this movie was made 10 years ago, Chris Pine would have played the Prince, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But that's, to me, I was like, man, he had so much fun, and he had great chemistry with Cynthia and Ariana, and I'm like, man, And I was like, wow, like, man, this was so well casted. Jeff Goldblum, against Jeff Goldblum, I had, one of the cons and concern, one of my cons, one of my, I guess, I'll say gripes, but one of my things I didn't care about the movie was, again, I've heard he's a good dude. Jeff Goldblum's kind of like he's kind of like a walking meme. He's kind of playing Jeff Goldblum. When it came out, I'm like, oh, it's the apartments.com Jeff Goldblum. Like, he wore in the green and everything. I was like, are you the wizard or are you wizard of apartments.com? Because what's going on here? It's kind of doing the thing. He was, hello, everybody. He's kind of doing the Jeff Goldblum isms where I was like, okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, you think of the wizard, like you kind of think of a guy like that. That makes kind of sense. But to me, he's kind of just being Jeff Goldblum where I'm like, you're kind of being the guy from the Thor movies too. I'm like, you're kind of just being yourself, my man. So to me, I was like, he didn't really add anything to it. I think he was kind of just like him. But his song that he sings is very sweet. But I do think that it was kind of like, it could have been anybody. It could have been like Jeff Bridges. It could have been Denzel. It could have been really anyone. It could have been like really any even Coleman Domingo I thought of too. Like it could have been really any actor. But Jeff Goldblum, he's kind of like a very lovable guy. Very like he's like in a very like a walking meme, as I said, but in a good way. And again, I've heard good things about him, so I don't want to like talk too much smack about him. And the actress this made me really happy too. The actress who plays Nessa, Alphaba's sister, actress named Marissa Bode. And to me, not spoiled, but the character is handicapped, disabled. And in real life, Marissa, the actress, is also handicapped and disabled. And to me, as a brother who has disabilities and who had disability, I love seeing when movies give actors who are handicapped, who are disabled, a shot. Because I think that just shows, hey, you know what? We see you, we hear you, we recognize you. You're an amazing actress, you're a performer here. And I love that John M. Chu in the movie just like really believed in her. I'm like, again, as a brother, I remember seeing Peanut Butter Falcon with my brother and seeing his reaction to that movie. He's like, wow, I see myself on screen. And that just means, I think, so much to a whole community, a whole actors who are disabled, who are handicapped. And that to me just like, wow, you're paying so much homage, you're paying just so much love and respect to these actors. Like, hey, we see you, we recognize you, you are an actor, this is your shot. And that to me was just like, again, it was very beautiful. I got a little teary-eyed thinking about it. And also the girl can sing. She's a phenomenal singer too. And I was like, wow. But again, also I like that it was unknown as well. All of that having unknown actors too. But that to me was very sweet. How it felt very authentic. It felt really real. It felt really kind of like made with such love and such passion, such respect. I'm like, props to John M. Chu, props to the casting, props to the whole production for doing that. But yeah, this movie, then watching it again last night with my mom, I was like, oh man, this is very like, has a very Harry Potter-esque feel to it. It has a very like kind of like wizarding world. Like, yeah, this kind of feels like a Hogwarts type kind of thing. And again, I don't think we get many movies like that anymore for the big screen, more of like a streaming show or like a television show now. But I do think that it's nice to have kind of a film like this, kind of like the magic and stuff like that on the big screen with an audience, with a musical element, of course, too. And yeah, I was very, very impressed with this movie. For a 2-hour and 45-minute runtime, I think it went by so fast. And you hear me on the podcast, I'm really big on like, hey, like, I don't know, man, the movie kind of felt it dragged a little bit, or like, oh no, I kind of felt the runtime. I thought 2:45, seeing it now twice, went by so fast where I was like, wow, I didn't feel the runtime. Like when it ended, I was like, no, like please more, don't end, I want to see more. And I think they utilized the runtime very well. The pacing of this was incredible. I didn't feel like drag. I wasn't like, oh, okay, like let's get on with it. No, I was just so immersed and I was so transported to Oz where I was like, give me more. Like, I want to see more of this. I want to see like where it goes next. I want to live in this world with these characters much longer. Because I was also captured by Cynthia and Ariana, and I do think I had goosebumps hearing Cynthia sing for the first time on screen. I was like, oh my gosh, like she's killing it. And then I had goosebumps hearing Ariana sing Popular. Again, grew up with the CD, grew up with the music. I was like, wow, I'm hearing these songs I grew up listening that I also love so much as my favorite musical of all time. As I said it already 100 times on the show already. I just love like it just they made it their own, but also making it just like just paying homage to the original, obviously. So I thought they handled every song just so gracefully, so beautifully. And again, you have two of the best singers, two of the best voices I think right now in entertainment, singing these most iconic and beloved songs. So I think it worked all the way around. Was gonna say something else too. One of my other cons, I guess. Well, like, I ain't saying the word gripe, but one other kind of like not my things I didn't care about it was I think the CGI was a bit questionable at times on some of the animals where I was like, ooh, like I don't know, like this looks a little like not rendered. Again, I don't want obviously VFX artists work so hard on movies and are worked to the bone. But some of the creatures, some of like the animals, I felt looked a little like video game-ish, little tough. Where I was like, oh, okay, like for a budget like this, you would think, okay, that this movie has the budget to like really get the best of the best of the best. I do think the CGI was a little questionable. When I first saw it on Sunday, I was like, okay, maybe just me. And I saw it again last night, and I was like, oh no, some of the CGI looks pretty rough. And again, I don't want to obviously, guys, the VFX is a whole different ballgame, whole universe. But I do gotta be honest, I thought CGI was kind of rough at times where I was like, on the creatures that is. I think on the other stuff looked pretty good for the most part, but the creature design, the creature CGI looked like it looked really fake. It looked like, okay, yeah, I can see this is like she's not only petting it, it's kind of like her hand or when someone was interacting with an animal, it was like, ooh, like yeah, this doesn't look right. But with that said, I was like, oh, okay. So again, I had the docket points just for that, but not by much. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie ruined it because of the CGI. No. I know how amazing VFX and CGI artists work to the bone. But yeah, I truly love this movie. I do think it's probably gonna be my top 10 of the year. I might see it again for the third time. I love the music so much. I'm probably gonna buy the vinyl album this weekend for sure. Yeah, I just this to me and Michelle Yeoh has this like presence about her when she's on screen that she captures the screen and demands your attention. And there's a scene where she kind of claps like really like powerfully with her powers, and she kind of like moves her hands, and then there's a cool like slow mo shot of her walking with like something going on in the background that is so badass, so iconic, where I was like, wow, Michelle Yeoh demands your attention. And I think she was perfectly casted as this too. She plays like the head sorcerer at Shiz University, and her name is Madame Morrible. And I just thought like how like she brought so much to the character, the role, and she commanded it. She demanded it. You're like, man, like also again, phenomenal actress. But that's why I was like, man, like she plays this like character so well. The layer she's in, the way that she kind of like her character changes throughout her arc, whatever. I was like, yeah, that this just works. And again, awesome chemistry with Cynthia and Ariana and Goldblum, all four of them. But again, also Alice Brooks. I shout out her. Alice Brooks is the cinematographer on this, and Alice Brooks, I believe she did In the Heights, which is again a remarkable looking film, and I believe she also did the cinematography for Tick Tick Boom. Yes, she did. If you know me, I freaking love Tick Tick Boom. One of my favorite movies of 2021. I play that soundtrack over and over and over again too. I love that movie so much. So she did the cinematography for In the Heights, Tick Tick Boom, and Wicked. And I truly believe she deserves an Oscar nomination for the cinematography in this because it looks incredible and it looks truly magical. I think was she nominated for? No, she wasn't. And Tick Tick Boom to me should have got more nominations that year. I'm sorry, like it got Best Actor with Andrew, obviously, who killed it. But no Lin-Manuel Miranda directing to me was like crazy. No Best Picture, crazy. No cinematography nomination, crazy. So that to me, I was like, wait a second. But I think this movie's probably nominated for sure, but for a bunch of Oscars. I think definitely. Oh, the costume design is remarkable. Production design is incredible. I think they had Christopher Nolan's production designer on this, which is really cool to hear that. I do think it's probably win the musical or comedy Golden Globe, and I'm really hoping to see both Ariana, Cynthia, as who will be supporting and who's supporting and leading then. Maybe leading for Cynthia, supporting for Ariana. No, or you can make the argument for both leading. I'm pretty sure it's happened before for like two people in the same movie. I don't know. But I do believe both nominated. John M. Chu deserves to be nominated if you ask me. Cinematography deserves to be nominated. Production design, costume. Oh, it will for sure win costume and production design, I believe. But cinematography, movie, best film, directing, acting, I think all deserve it too. I think this is one of the most like anyway, it was very joyful too. I think it was perfect time for the holidays. We got a big movie this week, a big week this week with Gladiator 2, Wicked coming out this weekend, Moana following next few days. So you have a big weekend big week for Thanksgiving movies. Which again, I love seeing competition like this. I think back to 2018 with like when we had movies like Bumblebee, Amazing Spider-Verse, Mary Poppins, Aquaman. That we had 4 big movies that were different studios and the competition. And obviously with the Fox Disney merger, that kind of went away, where it was like now you're competing with each other. But the fact that we have 3 big studio films like this in theaters with big releases is huge, because the competition now, because families can go, hey, you want to see Gladiator? Do you want to see two? Do you want to see Wicked? Do you want to see Moana? You have options. And I'm like, that's awesome. I do think that, I'm trying to think for Christmas this year. We don't have much in Christmas, but I do miss the days of like when you had big movies at the big screen, from different studios, different companies. I'm like, the competition, it helps the box office, it helps the movie industry so much, where I'm like, there we go. So I really do hope this weekend, next weekend's a big weekend for the box office. I think this movie's tracking about 100 mil plus. I think it'll probably do better. I think word of mouth. It's getting great reviews, including this one. I think Gladiator 2 has a big following because people love the first one so much and getting pretty good reviews. Also, you got Denzel, Pedro Pascal, and also you got Paul Mescal. And again, I think Moana 2 is also very beloved. First one was very beloved, and they love the music, whatever. So I think it's gonna be probably a big weekend at the box office, big week for movie fans. Again, if you are a fan of Wicked, I think you're gonna love this one. If you're not familiar with Wicked, I would say for sure go see this. Just knowing that it's a part 1, I think people should know it's a part 1 first. And my mom even said last night, she goes like, how will people feel about this if you don't know? Do you feel satisfied? Her and I kind of like, not argue, we can't disagree. I was like, I think you might feel satisfied. She kind of felt opposite, and I'm like, I can see her argument, but I do think with the runtime and kind of like how like it builds up so much hype for part 2, you're like, oh man, like here we go. That's one thing too. I've been praising this movie all episode. I'm really hoping this movie delivers on part 2, because I've seen a lot of movies like, oh great, part 1 and part 2 was eh. I'm like, oh please, it's not a sequel, it's a continuation. It's 2 parts, and I really hope they nail the land. I hope they nail the landing. I hope they kind of like. I really hope they kind of like they succeed. Again, I think right now this momentum they have in this, what I've seen, I'm very hopeful for part 2. I think I like part 2 of Dune more than part 1. But I think, but yeah, also part 2, Deathly Hallows more than part 1 of Harry Potter, and vice versa. Even with Hunger Games, Mockingjay part 2 is better than part 1. So I do have faith. I have hope that they will for sure deliver. I really hope so, because then I don't want to be disappointed. Right now, I'm putting the universe out. They're going to deliver a great sequel. It's a part 2. It's a continuation, not a sequel. Damn it. But I really do. What I've seen has impressed me. I think a lot more to come for part 2, and I have faith in John M. Chu and everyone involved, and again I'm looking forward to seeing what John M. Chu does next as a filmmaker, because I think right now after this movie he's going to be on a new list of like get him. So I'm very excited. So I'm giving this movie a really enthusiastic, really high 9 out of 10. This is for sure my top 10 of the year. How high up it will go, time will tell, because this has been a great year for films. This has been a great year for movies, both original films, indie films, blockbusters, whatever. I think this year has been a huge improvement over 2023 in terms of movies. In 2022, if you ask me, I think 2024 has been a phenomenal year of movies and filmmaking, and it's gonna be hard to do our top 10. So on this Nick the other day, I was like, man, doing our top 10 this year is gonna be rough, because I don't know how I'm going to fit all these movies that I love and enjoyed so much in my top 10. I think my honorable mention is going to be 40 movies, I think, this year. But yeah, again, I love seeing, I love that this movie was a letter of love from fans of Wicked, to fans of Wicked, people who like handled this movie just so well, so gracefully, to a point I'm just like, man, you had the right people. You had the right people for this movie, and it was everything just worked. Everything clicked, and I really hope this movie does really well at the box office and gets a lot of praise at the Academy and the award season. But yeah, my friends, please go see Wicked this weekend. See it with the crowd. See that sing along. See it with like a movie party at Alamo or whatever. Like, this is for sure we're seeing in theaters. I saw it in Cine Capri, which is a huge out here in Harkins in Phoenix. I would probably say see it in large format. I don't know if this movie was filmed for IMAX, so don't quote me on that. But if you see it at Dolby, see it at Cine Capri, see like a big large premium format, I would say don't go see it. We saw it in 3D last night, and probably my first 3D movie since Avatar 2. I would not pay the extra money for 3D if you ask me. I don't think it's worth it, me personally. So I would see it in like non-3D, see it in 2D. I think 3D is kind of going away. I don't think why 3D is still even around. But we saw it and I was like, took my glasses off a few times. I'm like, yeah, 3D, this was not really needed. So I would see it in non-2D, but I would recommend seeing, you've seen it at Dolby, seen it at Prime, seen like a big Cine Capri, seen like a really big, large format. I think the music and the sound is so like, so booming and so like masterful and just so immersive that it's worth seeing these big sets and hearing this music in the best format possible. So I would definitely recommend seeing this in a large format at AMC, Harkins, or a Regal, or Cinemark, whatever. So yeah, or even sing along. They might have a few of those. So I would highly recommend seeing Wicked in theaters on the biggest screen possible. But yeah, guys, hope you all enjoyed my rambling and also my review for Wicked Part 1. I'll say that right there, Part 1. Like I said, guys, I'll hopefully have an episode of the podcast for you guys next week for Thanksgiving. I'll for sure have my review of Anora and Smile 2 out for you guys before I forget. I'm so behind on that. I saw Anora again the other day at my Regal, so I'm overdue for that for you guys. I'm trying to see Heretic before it leaves, A24 horror movie, but not doing too well at the theaters, so hopefully I'll see it before it leaves. And I think Gladiator 2. I gotta watch Gladiator, the first Gladiator. Never saw it before. No, hot take. I'll probably watch that either this weekend or next week during Thanksgiving, and then go see it after maybe the holidays. So look out for that. And of course, like I said, we're teasing we'll probably do the first video element of the podcast, hopefully the first Friday of December. So look at that. Until then, my friends, have a lovely weekend. And of course, we will see you guys at the movies.